Captain Lee Daeho stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship had been on patrol for 3 months now, checking the outer edges of human space. Nothing exciting ever happened out here. Just empty space and distant stars. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin from her science station, "I'm picking up something strange." "There's a ship approaching us." Lee turned toward her. "Human ship?" "No, sir. The design is completely different." "I've never seen anything like it." Commander Park Ji-woo stepped closer to the captain. "Sir, this could be first contact with an alien species." Lee felt his heart beat faster. First contact. Every captain dreamed of this moment, but few ever experienced it. "Put it on screen." The main display changed to show a massive vessel approaching them. It was beautiful and strange. The ship had smooth, curved lines that seemed to flow like water. Blue and silver lights ran along its surface in patterns that hurt to look at directly. It was at least twice the size of the Indomitable. "They're sending a communication signal," reported Communications Officer Han Woo-jin. "Put it through." The screen filled with the image of an alien being. It had pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Its head was larger than a human's, and it wore what looked like a uniform made of some shimmering material. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Galactic Hegemony," the alien said. Its voice was translated by the ship's computer, but it still sounded strange. "You are operating a primitive vessel in space claimed by the Galactic Council." Lee straightened up. "I am Captain Lee Daeho of the United Earthship Indomitable. This is human space." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Human? We have no record of your species in our databases. Your technology appears crude and outdated. You will submit to scanning and prepare to surrender your vessel for inspection." Commander Park moved closer to Lee. "Captain, we should be careful. We don't know their capabilities." Lee nodded but kept his eyes on the alien. "Admiral Vextar, we're willing to talk. We're curious about your people too. You can scan our ship if it helps with first contact." The alien looked surprised. "You agree to scanning?" "Most primitive species try to resist." "We have nothing to hide," Lee said. He was curious about what these aliens would think of human technology. Maybe they could learn from each other. On the alien ship, Science Officer Kilnara prepared the scanning systems. She looked at the human vessel on her screen and shook her head. "This should be easy. Look at that ship. Metal plates welded together. Simple fusion drives. Their technology must be thousands of years behind ours." Admiral Vextar nodded. "Scan everything. Let's see what these humans are really capable of." Back on the Indomitable, Lieutenant Commander Kim Soo-jin watched her instruments. "Captain, they're beginning their scan. It's very advanced. Much more detailed than anything we've ever seen." "Let them look," Lee said. "Monitor everything they do. We might learn something." Ensign Choi Min-ho looked up from his engineering station. "Sir, should I put the ship on alert status?" "No. We're here to make friends, not enemies." The alien scanning beam passed through the Indomitable's hull like it wasn't there. Kilnara watched the data stream across her screens. At first, everything looked normal. The ship was made of metal and composite materials. The crew was biological. The engines were fusion-based. But then she started noticing strange things. The metal wasn't just steel and titanium. There were microscopic machines throughout the hull. Tiny robots that seemed to repair damage and strengthen the structure. The fusion reactors were putting out much more power than should be possible for their size. "Admiral," Kilnara called out, "this is interesting. Their technology is more advanced than it appears." "How much more advanced?" "The hull contains nanotechnology, self-repairing systems, and the power output from their engines is impossible by our calculations." Admiral Vextar frowned. "Continue the scan. Look deeper." On the human ship, Sergeant Major Yoon Hae-jin was working in the weapons bay. The alien scan passed over him and Kilnara's instruments went crazy. The human soldier's body showed signs of extensive modification, cybernetic implants throughout his nervous system, genetic changes that gave him strength far beyond normal biological limits, bone density 3 times normal, reaction times that were almost superhuman. "Admiral, you need to see this," Kilnara said, her voice shaking slightly. "The humans have been modified, enhanced. This soldier could probably tear apart our security team with his bare hands." The scan moved to other crew members. Dr. Bae So-young in the medical bay showed different modifications. Her brain had been enhanced with computer interfaces. She could process medical data faster than their ship's computers. Communications Officer Han Woo-jin, had neural implants that connected him directly to the ship's systems. He wasn't just operating the communications equipment. He was part of it. These aren't just humans, Kilnara whispered. They're something more. Cybernetic organisms. Enhanced beings, Admiral Vexistar stared at the data. Every human on the ship showed signs of modification. Not crude implants, but sophisticated merging of biology and technology. How is this possible? Their ship looks so primitive. Sir, I think the primitive appearance might be intentional. They're hiding their true capabilities. The scan went deeper into the ship's computer systems. What Kilnara found there made her step back from her console in shock. The ship's artificial intelligence wasn't just a computer program. It was vast, complex, and it seemed to be watching the scan, learning from it. Worse, the AI appeared to contain the recorded minds of other humans. Thousands of them, as if every human who had ever served on ships like this had their consciousness preserved and added to the collective intelligence. Admiral, Kilnara said, her voice barely above a whisper, I don't think we're looking at a simple warship. I think we're looking at something that's alive. The entire ship. It's like a massive organism with these enhanced humans as its nervous system. Admiral Vextar felt cold fear creeping up his spine. Continue the scan. We need to know everything. But deep down he was starting to think that maybe they didn't want to know everything about these humans. Maybe some knowledge was too dangerous to possess. On the Indomitable, Captain Lee waited patiently. He had no idea that his simple agreement to be scanned was about to change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Science Officer Kilnara wiped sweat from her forehead as she continued the deep scan of the human vessel. What had started as a routine examination of a primitive ship was becoming something far more disturbing. The data streaming across her screens made no sense according to everything she knew about technology and biology. Focus the scan on their engineering section, Admiral Vextar ordered. I want to know how they're generating so much power. The scanning beam penetrated deeper into the Indomitable's engine room. Ensign Choi Minho was working at a control panel, but what Kilnara saw through the scan made her gasp. The human wasn't just operating the controls. He was connected to them through thin cables that emerged from ports in his skull and spine. The human is interfacing directly with their systems, she reported, not through a keyboard or voice commands. His nervous system is linked to the ship's computer. On her screen, she watched as Choi Minho's thoughts became visible as data streams. He wasn't thinking in words like most beings. He was thinking in pure mathematics and engineering concepts. His mind processed information faster than their most advanced computers. The fusion reactors themselves were another shock. What appeared to be simple technology from the outside contained complexity that made Kilnara's head hurt. The reactors weren't just burning hydrogen. They were manipulating matter at the quantum level, creating energy from reactions that her science said were impossible. These aren't fusion reactors, she told the Admiral. They're quantum manipulation devices. They're creating matter and energy from nothing. Admiral Vextar stared at the readings. That's impossible. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. Tell that to the humans. Their ship is producing enough energy to power a small moon. The scan moved to the ship's structure itself. What had looked like simple metal plating was revealed to be something far more complex. The hull contained millions of microscopic machines, each one smaller than a cell. These machines constantly repaired damage, strengthened weak points, and even improved the ship's design in real time. Lieutenant Commander Kim Soo-jin was monitoring the scan from her science station. Through the alien scanning beam, Kilnara could see that Kim's brain had been enhanced with quantum processors. The human scientist wasn't just intelligent, she was processing multiple streams of consciousness simultaneously, thinking hundreds of different thoughts at the same time. Admiral, I'm detecting something else, Kilnara said, her voice shaking. The humans aren't just enhanced individually. They're connected to each other. They're sharing thoughts and information through their neural networks. She pulled up a display showing the connections between crew members. Lines of data flowed between every human on the ship. They weren't just a crew working together. They were a collective mind operating through individual bodies. Sergeant Major Yoon Hai-jin was in the weapons bay, and his scans revealed the most disturbing modifications yet. His bones had been replaced with a material stronger than their ship's armor. His muscles had been enhanced with synthetic fibers that gave him the strength of a machine. His reflexes had been boosted to superhuman levels, but most frightening was his brain. Yoon's mind contained detailed knowledge of warfare tactics for thousands of different species. Information about weapons, strategies, and weaknesses of civilizations across the galaxy. Information that humans shouldn't have access to. How do they know about the Corvani battle formations? Kilnara whispered, reading the data from Yoon's memory. The Corvani are on the other side of the galaxy. Humans have never met them. The scan revealed more crew members with equally disturbing capabilities. Dr. Bae So Young in the medical bay had knowledge of biology for hundreds of different species. Her enhanced mind could create biological weapons or cures for diseases that affected beings she had never seen. Each human seemed to contain the accumulated knowledge of an entire civilization, all stored in their enhanced brains and accessible through their neural networks. "Admiral," Kilnara said, stepping back from her console, "I don't think these are just enhanced humans. I think there's something entirely new, a hybrid of biology and technology that shouldn't be possible." The ship's artificial intelligence was the most complex system Kilnara had ever encountered. It wasn't just a computer program running on processors. It was a living entity made of quantum circuits and biological neural networks. The AI seemed to be learning and growing as she watched, becoming more complex with each passing second. Communications Officer Han Woo-jin was directly connected to this AI, serving as a bridge between the artificial intelligence and the human crew. Through him, the entire ship could think and react as one entity. "The ship is alive," Kilnara reported, "not just controlled by an AI. The ship itself is a living being with the humans as its organs and nervous system." Admiral Vextar felt sick. "How is that possible?" "I don't know. But look at this." She displayed a scan of the ship's internal structure. The corridors and rooms weren't just spaces. They were more like arteries and organs in a massive creature. The walls contained neural networks that carried information throughout the ship. The humans weren't crew members operating a vessel. They were components of a larger organism. The scan revealed storage areas filled with materials that could be used to build more ships. Not just metal and circuits, but biological components and quantum computers. The Indomitable wasn't just a warship. It was a factory that could create more ships like itself. "Sir, I'm detecting quantum manufacturing systems throughout the ship," Kilnara said. "They can create matter from energy. They could build an entire fleet from raw materials in days, not years." But the most disturbing discovery came when the scan reached the ship's databanks. The computers contained information about thousands of other human ships, each one different but built on the same principles. Ships that could manipulate gravity, bend space, and even affect time itself. "This isn't their most advanced ship," Kilnara whispered. "According to their databanks, this is considered an old, outdated vessel. They have ships that can do things we can't even imagine." Admiral Vextar stared at the screen showing the human ship. It looked so ordinary from the outside, metal plates and simple engines. But inside it was more advanced than anything in the Galactic Council's fleets. "Continue the scan," he ordered, though part of him wanted to stop. "We need to know what we're dealing with." Kilnara nodded and focused the scanning beam deeper into the ship's core systems. What she found there would change everything they thought they knew about war, technology, and life itself. The humans had found ways to weaponize concepts that other species considered to be laws of nature. And this old outdated ship was just the beginning of what they were capable of. The scanning beam reached the deepest levels of the human ship, and Science Officer Kilnara felt her world turn upside down. What she discovered in the core systems of the Indomitable made her question everything she thought she knew about reality itself. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately," she called out, her voice barely steady. Admiral Vextar moved to her station and looked at the display. What he saw there made his blood run cold. The ship's central computer core wasn't just storing data. It was storing the minds of thousands of humans who had died in previous battles. "These aren't just memories or recordings," Kilnara explained. "These are complete consciousness transfers. Every human who has ever died serving on ships like this has their mind preserved and integrated into the ship's systems." The display showed layer after layer of human minds, all connected in a vast network. They were still thinking, still learning, still growing. Death hadn't stopped them. It had just moved them from biological bodies to digital existence within the ship's quantum computers. Communications Officer Han Woo-jin was connected to this network of digital minds. Through him, the living crew could access the knowledge and experience of thousands of dead warriors. Every battle ever fought, every strategy ever used, every mistake ever made was instantly available to the current crew. "They're not just a crew," Kilnara whispered. "They're an army of the living and the dead working together." Dr. Bae So-young's medical bay revealed even more disturbing secrets. The scan showed that she wasn't just treating injuries. She was upgrading the crew in real time. During battles, she could enhance their abilities, repair damage, and even bring back crew members who had been killed. Her medical equipment could regrow entire organs in minutes. She could boost brain function to superhuman levels. She could even transfer a dying person's consciousness into the ship's computer system, making them effectively immortal. "They can't really die," Kilnara reported. "Even if their bodies are destroyed, their minds survive in the ship's systems. They can be given new bodies or continue to exist as digital beings." The ship's manufacturing systems were beyond anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. Hidden deep in the Indomitable's core was a quantum forge that could create matter from pure energy. It could build new weapons, repair damage, and even construct entire ships from raw materials. But most terrifying was what the humans planned to do with this technology. The scan revealed blueprints for ships that defied all known laws of physics. Vessels that could exist in multiple dimensions at once, ships that could travel through time, weapons that could destroy entire star systems. "This ship can reproduce itself," Kilnara said, reading the data streams. "It can build copies of itself, complete with crews of enhanced humans and stored consciousness of dead warriors. One ship could become 100 ships in a matter of weeks." Lieutenant Colonel Nam Yeon-soo was overseeing the weapon systems, and what the scan revealed about human military technology made Admiral Vextar step back in horror. The humans had weapons that didn't just destroy matter, they destroyed the idea of matter existing in the first place. "These aren't energy weapons," Kilnara explained, her voice shaking. "They're reality manipulation devices. They can change the fundamental laws of physics in local areas. They can make it impossible for enemy ships to exist." The weapon systems included devices that could age enemy ships into dust in seconds by accelerating time around them. Probability cannons that made enemy weapons miss by changing the mathematical chance of them hitting their targets. Dimensional torpedoes that didn't destroy ships but erased them from reality entirely. "They've weaponized concepts we consider to be unchangeable laws of nature," Kilnara said. "Time, space, probability, causality. All of these are tools in their arsenal." Commander Ryu Changmin was connected to strategic systems that could predict enemy actions before they were even thought of. His enhanced mind, working with the ship's AI and the stored consciousness of dead tacticians, could see the future of any battle and plan accordingly. "They don't just win battles," Kilnara reported. "They know how battles will end before they begin. Their strategic systems can calculate the outcome of conflicts across multiple timelines simultaneously." The most disturbing discovery came when the scan revealed the true purpose of human military doctrine. Hidden deep in the ship's classified files were plans for something called Project Universal Peace. The humans weren't just trying to win wars. They were trying to end the possibility of war forever. Their plan involved using their reality manipulation technology to modify the brains of every sentient being in the galaxy. They would remove the biological capacity for aggression, hatred, and violence. Every species would be forced into a state of permanent peace. "They want to change the fundamental nature of all intelligent life," Kilnara whispered. "They think war is a disease that needs to be cured, and they have the technology to cure it by force." The files showed that humans had already tested this technology on smaller conflicts. Entire warring civilizations had suddenly lost their ability to fight, not because they chose peace, but because humans had removed their capacity for violence at the genetic and neural level. "Admiral, according to these files, there are human ships already deployed throughout the galaxy," Kilnara reported. "They're watching conflicts and intervening when they think it's necessary. They're not just trying to stop wars, they're trying to stop the ability to make war." Admiral Vextar felt sick. What about free will? What about the right to choose? "I don't think they see it as a choice," Kilnara said, reading more files. "To them, violence is like a disease. You don't ask a disease for permission before you cure it." The scan revealed communication logs between the Indomitable and other human ships. They talked casually about cleaning up entire sectors of space. They discussed fixing species that were too aggressive. They planned the improvement of civilizations that didn't meet their standards for peaceful behavior. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood calmly on his bridge, unaware that the alien scan was revealing humanity's deepest secrets. To him, this was just a routine first contact situation. He had no idea that his ship's database contained plans that would terrify every free-thinking being in the galaxy. "Sir," Kilnara said to Admiral Vextar, "I recommend we terminate the scan and withdraw immediately. This information is too dangerous. If the humans realize we know about their plans—" "Continue the scan," Admiral Vextar ordered, though his voice was shaking. "We need to know everything. The Galactic Council must be warned about what we're dealing with." But as the scan went deeper, Kilnara began to suspect that the humans already knew exactly what the aliens were discovering. The ship's AI was too advanced, too aware. It had to know about the scan. It had to know what they were finding, which meant the humans were letting them see these secrets. And that was the most terrifying thought of all. Tactical Analyst Mordek had replaced Science Officer Kilnara at the scanning station. Kilnara had been taken to the medical bay after suffering what their doctors called cognitive shock from processing the human technology data. Now Mordek continued the deep scan, focusing on the human ship's weapon systems. What he found made him understand why Kilnara had collapsed. "Admiral, their weapons bay doesn't contain anything we recognize as weapons," Mordek reported, his voice tight with fear. "These devices operate on principles that shouldn't be possible." Lieutenant Colonel Nam Yon-su moved through the Indomitable's weapons bay like a conductor directing an orchestra. But the instruments he controlled weren't just guns or missiles. They were machines that could rewrite the basic rules of reality. The first weapon system Mordek examined was labeled Probability Manipulation Array. Through the scan, he watched as Nam tested the system on a small asteroid. The weapon didn't fire energy or projectiles. Instead, it changed the mathematical chance of the asteroid existing in that location. The asteroid simply stopped being there. Not destroyed, not moved. It became mathematically impossible for it to exist, so it didn't. "Admiral, they have weapons that alter probability itself," Mordek said, his hands shaking as he worked the controls. "They can make it impossible for enemy shots to hit them by changing the odds to 0. The next system was even worse. The temporal acceleration cannon could speed up time around target objects. Mordek watched through the scan as Nam demonstrated the weapon on a piece of metal. In seconds, the metal aged through millions of years, rusting, decaying, and crumbling to dust. "They can age enemy ships into nothing," Mordek reported. "A battleship that took decades to build can be turned into scrap metal in moments." But the temporal weapons worked both ways. The humans had temporal stasis fields that could freeze areas of space in time. Enemy weapons would be caught in these fields. Their projectiles stopped forever, their energy beams frozen like ice. Admiral Vextar stared at the displays showing the human weapons. "How is this possible? Time is a fundamental force of the universe. It can't be controlled." "Tell that to the humans," Mordek said. "They've turned time into a weapon." The scan revealed more impossible devices. Dimensional rupture torpedoes could tear holes in space itself, creating tears in reality that would swallow enemy ships. The ships didn't explode or break apart. They were pulled into dimensions where the laws of physics worked differently, where matter couldn't exist in any form recognizable to normal space. "Their torpedoes don't just destroy targets," Mordek explained. "They banish them to other dimensions. The ships are gone completely, as if they never existed." The quantum entanglement mines were perhaps the most frightening weapons of all. These devices could link enemy ships across vast distances. When one ship was damaged, all the linked ships would suffer the same damage instantly, no matter how far apart they were. "They can make an entire enemy fleet share the same fate," Mordek said. "Destroy one ship, and hundreds of others die at the same time." Commander Ryu Chang-min operated the strategic warfare systems from his command station. Through the scan, Mordek could see that Chang-min wasn't just planning current battles. He was fighting wars across multiple timelines simultaneously. "Sir, their strategic systems can see into alternate realities," Mordek reported. "They're not just planning for what might happen. They're planning for every possible version of what could happen across infinite timelines." The humans had weapons that could strike at enemy ships in the past, destroying them before battles even began. They had devices that could send bombs forward in time, making them appear inside enemy vessels without warning. They could fight the same battle in dozens of different timelines and choose the version where they won. "They don't just fight wars," Mordek said, his voice barely a whisper. They fight all possible versions of wars at the same time. The scan revealed maintenance areas where human technicians worked on devices that hurt to look at directly. These weapons existed in multiple dimensions at once, appearing different depending on the angle of observation. Some weapons looked like simple tools until they were activated, when they would unfold into complex machines that stretched across space and time. Ensign Choi Min-ho was connected to manufacturing systems that could create new weapons in real time during battle. If the humans encountered a type of enemy they hadn't fought before, their ships could design, build, and deploy new weapons specifically designed to counter that enemy's advantages. Their ships learn and adapt during combat, Mordek explained. They don't just use existing weapons. They create new ones as needed. The most disturbing discovery was a weapon system called causality inversion. This device could reverse cause and effect in local areas. Enemy ships would be destroyed before they fired their weapons. Explosions would happen before the bombs that caused them were detonated. They can make effects happen before their causes, Mordek said, his voice shaking. They can destroy enemy ships with explosions that technically haven't happened yet. Dr. Bae So-young's medical bay contained weapons disguised as healing devices. Her biological harmony fields could force enemy soldiers to feel overwhelming love and compassion for their opponents, making them unable to fight. Her neurological correction beams could rewrite enemy memories, making them forget why they were fighting. Their medical officer has weapons that attack the mind and soul, Mordek reported. She can make enemies forget their enemies. The scan revealed communication logs discussing weapons that existed only as ideas. Conceptual bombs that could destroy the thought of resistance in enemy minds. Philosophical viruses that could spread through enemy communication networks, making entire civilizations question their reasons for existing. Admiral, they have weapons that attack concepts themselves, Mordek said. They can destroy ideas, erase thoughts, eliminate the possibility of certain types of thinking. But the most frightening weapon was one that wasn't listed in any database. Through careful analysis of the ship's power systems and quantum field generators, Mordek realized that the entire Indomitable could be turned into a single massive weapon. Sir, the ship itself is a weapon, he reported. The entire vessel can be converted into a device that rewrites reality in large areas. They could change the laws of physics for entire star systems. Admiral Vextar sat down heavily in his command chair. What kind of beings create weapons like these? Beings who have moved beyond the need to destroy their enemies, Mordek said. They don't kill opponents. They make it impossible for opposition to exist in the first place. The scan showed that these weapons were considered standard equipment on human ships. The crew talked about them casually as if devices that could manipulate time and space were as normal as simple energy guns. Admiral, according to their communication logs, this is just basic military equipment, Mordek said. They refer to planet crackers and star killers as if they're routine patrol vessels. As the scan neared completion, Mordek realized something that made his blood freeze. The humans weren't hiding their weapons. They weren't trying to keep their capabilities secret. They were letting the aliens see everything. Sir, I think they want us to know what they're capable of, Mordek said. This isn't accidental discovery. This is a demonstration. The question was, what did the humans plan to do with beings who now knew too much about their impossible weapons? As the alien scan reached its final stages, tactical analyst Mordek made a discovery that shattered everything he thought he understood about the universe. Deep in the Indomitable's communication logs, he found casual conversations between the human crew and their command structure that revealed the true scope of human military power. Admiral, you need to hear this, Mordek said, his voice hollow with shock. I've intercepted communications between this ship and human command. He played back a conversation between Captain Lee Dae-ho and someone identified as Fleet Admiral Kang Mi-young. The two humans were discussing the Indomitable's patrol mission, as if it were the most routine thing in the galaxy. Status report, Captain. Admiral Kang's voice came through clearly. All quiet out here, Admiral. We made contact with some aliens calling themselves the Galactic Hegemony. They're scanning our ship right now. Understood. Any signs of hostility? None so far. They seem curious about our technology. Admiral Vextar leaned forward. That's us they're talking about. Continue listening. The conversation continued, and what Mordek heard next made him step back from his console in terror. Admiral, if these aliens prove to be a threat, Should I deploy the Prometheus system? Captain Lee asked casually. Only if necessary, Captain. Remember, we're trying to minimize civilian casualties in this sector. The 3 warring civilizations in the Kepler region are keeping us busy enough. Understood. What's the status on the Starkiller fleet? Currently deployed to the Andromeda Spiral. We're dealing with a Type 7 civilization that thinks they can challenge us. Should be resolved within the week. Mordek turned to Admiral Vexutar with wide, terrified eyes. Sir, they're talking about weapons that can kill stars, and they're treating it like routine maintenance. The scan revealed more communications that painted a picture of human military operations across the galaxy. They weren't just one species with advanced technology. They were a force that operated on a scale that made the Galactic Council look like children playing with toys. Captain Oh Dong-hyun, Admiral Kang's aide, mentioned in passing that the planet crackers had finished their work in the Vega system, and the reality anchors were being deployed to prevent the remnants of destroyed civilizations from using time travel to undo their defeats. They fight wars across time and space, Mordek whispered. And they win so completely that they have to prevent their enemies from traveling to the past to change the outcome. Commander Ryu Chang-min received updates about conflicts in distant galaxies. Humans were fighting wars in Andromeda, the Magellanic Clouds, and other galaxies that the Galactic Council didn't even know contained intelligent life. Admiral, they're not just active in our galaxy, Mordek reported. They're fighting wars in other galaxies simultaneously. They're a pan-galactic military force. But the most disturbing revelation came when the scan intercepted a routine status report from the ship's AI to human command. The artificial intelligence casually mentioned that the Indomitable was classified as obsolete technology and was scheduled for retirement and recycling. This ship, with all its impossible weapons and reality-bending technology, is considered outdated by human standards, Mordek said, his voice cracking. They have ships that make this one look like a primitive vessel. The communications revealed discussions about temporal battleships that could exist in multiple time periods simultaneously, fighting the same enemy across past, present, and future. Dimensional dreadnoughts that could phase between realities, appearing in any universe where they were needed. Fleet Admiral Kang mentioned something called Project Prometheus, as if it were a simple tool in their arsenal. But the brief discussion of its capabilities made Mordek's blood run cold. The Prometheus system could turn entire stars into weapons, using their nuclear fusion as ammunition for cannons that could destroy solar systems. They can weaponize stars themselves, Mordek reported. Stars become their ammunition. The scan revealed that humans had a classification system for threats that operated on a scale beyond anything the Galactic Council had imagined. A Type 1 threat required a single ship like the Indomitable. A Type 10 threat required the deployment of weapons that could destroy entire dimensions. Sir, according to their classifications, our entire Galactic Council would rate as a Type 2 threat, Mordek said, manageable by a small patrol group. Even more terrifying was the discovery that humans had been watching galactic civilization for thousands of years. They had detailed files on every species, every government, every military force in known space. They knew about conflicts before they started. They knew about invasions before they were planned. Communications Officer Han Woo-jin received routine updates about human observation posts throughout the galaxy. Hidden stations that monitored every spacefaring civilization, watching for signs of aggression or expansion that might threaten galactic peace. They've been watching us all along, Mordek whispered. Every species in the galaxy is under constant surveillance. The scan revealed the true scope of human military doctrine. They didn't just fight wars to win territory or resources. They fought wars to eliminate the concept of war itself. Their ultimate goal was something they called universal pacification, the complete elimination of violent conflict from the galaxy. Dr. Bae So-young's medical logs contained references to biological correction protocols that had been applied to entire species. Civilizations that were too aggressive had their genetic codes modified to reduce violent tendencies. Warrior cultures had their brains chemically altered to promote peaceful cooperation. They're changing entire species to fit their vision of peace, Mordek reported. Not negotiating peace, not imposing peace, actually changing the biological nature of aggressive civilizations. Lieutenant Shin Ye-jin, the navigation officer, updated the ship's course to their next destination. The scan revealed that 3 civilizations in that sector had been at war for centuries. But according to human intelligence reports, the war was about to end, not through victory or negotiation, but through biological intervention. Sir, they're heading to end a 3-way war by modifying the brains of all 3 species, Mordek said. Within months, those civilizations will lose the ability to feel aggression or hatred. The most chilling discovery came in a personal log entry from Captain Lee Dae-ho. He wrote about the loneliness of command, about the burden of knowing that humanity had the power to reshape the galaxy according to their vision of peace. He mentioned the weight of deciding which species deserved to keep their free will and which needed to be corrected for the greater good. Even their captains struggle with the moral implications of what they're doing, Mordek said. But they do it anyway because they believe they're saving the galaxy from itself. Admiral Vextar sat in stunned silence as the implications became clear. Humanity wasn't just another military power. They were the ultimate authority in the galaxy, operating from the shadows to shape the development of all other civilizations. Sir, there's more, Mordek said, his voice barely audible. I've found references to something called the Final Protocol. If any species proves too dangerous or too resistant to pacification, humans have the capability to erase them from existence completely. Not just destroy them, but remove them from reality so thoroughly that they never existed in the first place. The scan was nearly complete, but Mordek realized that they had learned far too much. The humans had allowed them to see these secrets for a reason. The question was, what did humanity plan to do with beings who now knew the truth about galactic civilization? As if in answer to his thoughts, Captain Lee Dae-ho's voice came over the communication system. Admiral Vextar, have you finished your scan of our vessel? We have other destinations to reach, and our doctrine requires us to minimize any potential threats to galactic peace. The word minimize carried implications that made Admiral Vextar's blood freeze in his veins.